our next official interview content client. And
Congratulations.
thank you. And that's somebody that I've known for quite a while, and she knew that we put this new offer out there, and she's like, yeah, I really want to do this because like we really want to start, getting on video, but I just never do it. And she already said in that first call, she's like, I think we would want to do this like at least quarterly to do like a new interview. So yeah, that was pretty cool. And
Oh
that
yeah.
was kind of one of those that like we didn't even really have to like sell them on the call, like because we had a relationship already. They came to the call just to like talk details and be like, okay, what's the next step?
It's the
So
best
that
kind.
was cool. Absolutely.
Yeah. No, I really think no, I think you're completely right. I think that there is so much damn opportunity out there. And like just even some of the things that you just went through there, like even posting into like a Facebook group full of business owners. Um, but I think that a lot of the time when someone isn't getting results and someone isn't actually like doing outreach, and they're probably kind of like lying to themselves about what they're doing about or how hard they're working. I think that there's usually an inherent there's like something happening on a root or like level where they kind of are they're not fully they don't fully believe in their service, or they don't like their service, they're not excited about it. Because I've even seen that happen with myself, right? If I'm just like not really amped up about what I'm doing anymore, then like the leads don't come, the calls don't come, because like there's actually you're fighting two parts of yourself. One of you does want to do it, probably because of like the money and stuff, right? But another part of you is kind of like, I don't know, I'm not digging this anymore. And
Yeah.
like it's tough too, because like in business there's always like fluctuations in this, and it's like you could have been like killing it, but you also might have gotten burnt out when you were at the top, which then when you come down a little bit, you still like you kind of remember like that burnout and sort of overwhelm that you had when you had like 11 clients, and then there's this thing inside you that's kind of like, shit, do I want that again?
Yeah. I know what you mean. I think there's something said to be about like figuring out a way to like offload some of your work so that you're not doing all of it somehow. One
Yeah.
thing comes to mind, but another thing too comes to mind is I did do a bunch of outreach this week and try to have as many conversations as possible. And to be honest, I used to be like quite like nervous doing it and like had like a lot of like anxiety and a lot of just like dread doing it. And now I've tried to just like one thing I've noticed that helped me, and I got a lot of people to open up this week, even people asking me for pricing from like a cold DM. I don't always like doing that either because I feel like I don't want to give someone a price on something before they've like actually experienced what I do, because then it lands different. But what I found that works for me is I have like a Claude project set up for like outreach, and I scrape the people's profile, and then I have that like I find something that I could actually like read between the lines and have like an actual like, hey, have you thought about doing a video on something very specific to your profile? And like a lot of the times Claude will say skip this person because they're like, don't bother with this person, there's nothing really here, it sounds like this profile is written in third person and it sounds like a resume, versus someone that actually has an opinion or something interesting. Maybe they have an arc. Maybe they're like a Navy pilot, or not pilot, but maybe they're in the Navy, and then all of a sudden they're running like a real estate company, entrepreneur or whatever. So it's like, okay, like that'd be a really cool story. Like, why don't we? Have you thought about recording that? And then I found that a lot of people are like, yeah, some people are straight up like, I had some people say like, hey, I don't want to be in front of the limelight. I don't like being in front of people. I want to be like lay low. I'm like, cool. I just don't, the people that are automatically like not like vibing and not like necessarily a fit, that's going to be too many things to get through that person to like want to post. So I'm like, all right, disqualify that person as quick as possible and only work on the ones that actually like matter. And then I'm going back to that free thing again too. Like, let me do like just like a free video for you. And then I'm sprucing it up a little too, adding a little bit more like graphics to it, like a couple little things to make the edit look a little bit more polished to stand out. But yeah, it's not easy at all, but it's I think it's like anything, like building pipelines probably one of the most difficult parts of any business.
Yeah, I think, I mean, it goes back to what we've talked about before, that like selling. really is a transfer of emotion. And I think if you're at a place in your business where you're like, I don't even know if I want to do this, whether that's like you're just starting and you're like, I don't know if this is the right thing, or you've been doing it for a while and you're like, I don't know if this is what I want to do anymore. Like, there's just people pick up on that energy and you might not even realize that it's coming across, but I think it does come across in just like the enthusiasm that you bring to the conversation. Because like I've been at a point where I found prospecting really, really hard. And that was more so at the beginning when I was like new at it. We were doing the marketing agency. I think that's where most people, like, some people never get past that phase because they're like, I couldn't even get my first clients. I'm like, well, that just tells me you gave up too soon. And so when I like coach people on prospecting and they're in that phase, I'm like, you don't have to have all the conviction right now. Like, if, like, when I was brand new and we were just offering to do free trials for people, I was like just excited about doing a free trial. I wasn't coming across as like, we're going to get you all these results, like we're these experts. I was like, hey, yeah, we live in the area. We help local businesses get customers. We actually have a strategy that we learned specifically for your type of business, and I'm just looking for, a dentist or whatever it is that wants more customers and I could try this on, and I just want to get a testimonial out of you. So like I brought the excitement to just like doing the free trial. And then once you get through that and you see yourself actually do it and you see that like you can actually do it and it can actually work, and then you get to a point where you're like, holy shit, somebody just paid me for this. Like that's what feeds your excitement going into the next phase. So I think like now prospecting to me feels different because I actually feel like excited about what we're doing. And the other thing that I was going to add before is like, again, because we have these other marketing services in our back pocket, a lot of them don't take up a ton of time for us the way that like ghostwriting does. Like, I think we can all agree that like cutting videos for somebody or writing content for somebody is a very involved process. Whereas doing something like, managing their Google reviews or setting up an ad typically doesn't take nearly as much time. So even if we meet with somebody with the intention of like, oh, this person could be an interview client, and then maybe on that disco call we discover, for one reason or another, if this isn't a good fit, we look for other opportunities where this person needs help and we can offer them something else. So that's kind of how we're approaching it, is like, let's use the discovery call as an opportunity to see like what is the best lever that we could pull for this person. But because we're now focusing on this interview offer, I'm like excited about that. And so prospecting just feels totally different than it did like 4 years ago when I was brand new and was like, fuck, I hope this works.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, like when I wrote in the chat, like when it's going well, it's always it's easy. Like I'm not even joking. Like in early 2025, when I was having these like really good months, like 15K in January and then 22K in March. I'm telling you this, it actually felt so fucking easy back then. Like it was like completely different.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and in those moments, it seems like you're kind of like in that right now, and you're probably gonna hit like a ramp up if I had to guess. Like, but in those moments as well, your mentality is very much, there's so much opportunity out there. There's so much opportunity out there. That's probably going through your head these days,
Mm-hmm.
right? Everybody who's killing it, they always have that mentality that it's easy and there's so much opportunity out there. I can put myself out here, there. I can go to this business meeting, business event. I can post in a Facebook group. I can keep up my LinkedIn stuff, Substack, all this, and yeah, it just comes easy in those moments.
Mm-hmm.
Jeremy, with Claude, I feel like it can be a little bit
Too strict.
too dismissive
Yeah,
of prospects, because
for sure.
it said, oh, that guy has his about section written in third person, not worth it. You should avoid that guy. That is actually that's kind of a green flag, because if he's writing it in third person, which is like obviously pretty stiff,
Right.
you're talking about yourself, like,
Yeah.
Michael J. Smith, da 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 da, like this. He was CEO of this company, right? It sounds like really like stiff and rigid,
Right.
um, on LinkedIn, though it is the corporate business platform. But that's actually kind of like a sign
Need
that
someone.
he could need your help, right?
Right.
Like as a ghostwriter, I think that would be a sign that he could need your help. And like as a video creator, I think that like it's a sign he could use your help as well.
Yeah, that's fair. I think Claude could be a little tight at times, but I do find that I think my response rate is probably over 10%. So I think that when I do hit, it does hit pretty hard because I think the average response rate is around 2%. So
Really?
I think the reason why it works, yeah, 2 to 3% for cold outreach, I would say.
Wow.
I don't know. That's what I've read, but I don't know if that's accurate or not. But it could be wrong.
I've heard some of these guys on LinkedIn talking about much higher response rates.
Okay.
Like, because I mean, once somebody accepts the connection request,
Right.
that's all already kind of like warmer, right?
Right.
So maybe they're looking at it for, yeah, I mean they're only looking at it from a perspective of this person has accepted a connection request, because those are the only people you can message unless it's an in-mail, right?
Yeah.
So they're looking at it from like that basis. So a lot of them talk about having like a 33% response rate, or like one guy talks about having a 45% response rate. um,
Damn. That's high.
I mean, I
Yeah.
know that particular guy, he tends to reach out to like young agency owners and stuff, which is kind of like, I feel like, an easier market than reaching out to like the busy CEO founder of like multi seven figure businesses. Like, just the guy who runs like a 1 to 10 person agency is pretty easy to get a hold of. So I feel
Right.
like the guy, this particular guy is talking about 45% response rate. He's got like a little bit of an edge just because of who he's going for. Um,
Yeah. I'm
yeah.
saying I'm doing it right in the initial pitch. I don't really I probably could change my strategy and send multiple emails, but it's literally in like the intro pitch, and I get responses from that. And I think the reason I get responses from that is because I personalize it. And I was actually watching a video on Tim Denning the other day, and he was saying the exact same thing, basically, that the only way you're going to get responses is that if like all of your messages are like specific for that one person, and like you're not like just sending general bullshit. So I think that's the only way, like taking the actual couple minutes to see whether or not you have something to say that lands and that you could read in between the lines and don't sound like you're like parroting shit off their profile. Then
Hmm.
I think that, because people get excited. Like I had one guy this week that was just like, yeah, like what do you charge, like right away, like, and I hate that though, because I'm like, I don't want to go right into like talking about money right away. So I always try to figure out how to like avoid the money until a call if possible, but that's always a little bit tricky to like figure out how do I stall this guy out, because the value's not before the value's shown and you talk price, it's not going to work.
The easiest
Yeah.
way that I've found to handle that, Jer, is it depends. Like even if you don't have multiple offers, that was something that I learned like when I first started doing sales calls. I was like, well, how do I approach it when somebody wants the price right away? And I don't know if you guys have heard of Dan Locke.
Yeah.
He's was really really big in like sales. He's a funny Asian guy from Canada, but he had a lot of videos specifically around sales. And I remember watching a video that he put out, and he's like, "What do you do when somebody asks a price up front?" And he's like, "You simply answer, it depends," and then you explain like, there's a couple different ways we could break this down. I would want to ask you a couple questions about your business to make sure that this is even like a good fit for what you need. And I've actually, in the last like couple weeks, I've actually started like I for a long time I was like, we should just have one offer, just like one core offer for this specific person, and that's it. But in the last couple of weeks, I've actually started splitting it into two options. So like it's all based around the interview, but it's there's basically two options. So we can do the interview, and we conduct the interview, we research your industry, and then we give you that interview as well as a like social strategy document. So we again like do a lot of research around their industry, around who their audience is, and it basically kind of is like just a handoff to that person. Like this gives you the kind of foundation to pull content from. So you have this interview that like you could cut up clips from. You have this social document that kind of tells you like what your messaging and positioning is, and you can take that and run with it. Or we have a more done for you service where we still do that interview, but then we handle everything from there. You know, we cut up all the clips, we do that strategy document, but we make all the posts, we post them, we do a bit of like prospecting and stuff on your behalf. So I've actually found that that's helpful, because then if people are like maybe not ready for the full package, or they're like, oh, I think I want the interview and then like I'll just take it, then like sweet, then it's not like a full package or nothing. And then the kind of idea with that too is like if they say at first like, yeah, I think I just want the foundational one, like just the interview and the strategy, and then I'll take it, then my goal is to like make that interview so good and so compelling for them that they're like, actually, like could we do the full package and like you guys do this for us. So if somebody came out swinging and like right away they're like, what's the price, I just be like, yeah, it depends. Like it depends, first of all, like if this is even a fit for like what you're trying to do in your business right now. But I also have a couple options, because like I don't want to sell you something that you don't need. So it's not just like a one price fits all. Like I have two different options, and if you want, we could talk next week. I'd like to ask you a couple questions about like where your business is at, what you guys are trying to do, and then I can explain both.
I
Yeah.
think it's good that you're giving them options too, because then they can kind of like self-select. One thing I've been kind of thinking about more too, I don't know if you guys do this, is like if they want like a one-off type thing, it's a higher rate, and then if they're more committed to like a 3 month type thing, then it's like maybe 20% off that higher rate, that
Mm-hmm.
type of thing, so that they're incentivized to like, if they believe in you and they believe in the product, to stay for 3 months, then they get like a discounted rate. I've been kind of thinking about that and kind of toying with that more in my mind lately too, and trying to figure that out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
sometimes you can't get around the whole like price thing in the DMs. Like if you're too resistant, like some of these actually like qualified CEO founder types, they might be the type that kind of just does want to get to like the point to some degree, and they want to know roughly ballpark what it costs. And it is it's honestly, get it in your head that it is a pretty honest answer to be like, honestly, it depends. Like our prices range from like 1,500 all the way to like 5,000 or 7,500. It just depends what you actually need. Should we set up a call so that we can like figure out what you need?
mm-hmm.
Is pretty honest, right? And you're not completely dodging the price thing. So yeah.
Yeah, it's and that's the thing is like you're not doing it to be salesy or to be misleading or to like not give them the answer. You're being honest that you're like it depends. Like I'm not just going to slap you with the price and be like this is it. There's a couple options depending on like what's actually going to be the most effective for you.
Yeah, like if you were just to say, "Oh, it's $3,000," well, that honestly just kind of communicates like, okay, so I'm just going to stick you into a cookie cutter package. I'm just going to fit you into this cookie cutter package, sort of thing. Like if there
Mhm.
isn't a range, then yeah, it just sounds like there's nothing tailored about your services.
Yeah.
Do you feel that people need to kind of be bought into personal branding already to buy like video services or ghostwriting, versus someone that's just like, I want the ROI? Because there are certain people that are different, like wired differently. And like I know for like my dad, for example, all he cares about is ROI. So he won't give a fuck about personal brand because he doesn't really understand it or believe in any of that. So I'm just curious, do you guys think about this too, where like, all right, is this person just only ROI, or they actually just believe in brand?
Yeah, I thought about this before when you something else that you had said earlier. I think you need somebody who sees the value in what you do. So if somebody's like, I don't value visibility, I don't value being on video and like, connecting with the people I'm trying to connect with, I have no interest in being on video, then like it's probably not worth getting on a call with that person, at least in my opinion, because they're already saying like, I don't really value what you do. I think
Mhm.
somebody who they don't have to necessarily be like putting out a ton of content, but somebody who has a bit of an online presence, especially like when I get into a conversation with somebody and I ask them like, you know, where do you think most of your clients are coming to you right now? And they say, I had a guy yesterday say like probably a mix of Facebook and Instagram. I'm like, sweet. That tells me he already sees the value in being present on those platforms. So like that's already an in. Yeah, you might still get those people that are like, well, what's the ROI on this? And then you can simply explain that like for organic content, like I mean, we've talked about this before, it's a little bit more of like a long-term game. Like you're putting out content that people can connect with over time. So there's always going to be a little bit of ambiguity with like connecting every dollar to organic social posts, but you need to find people who see the value in that.
Yeah.
On our last call, Jeremy, we talked about, and this is more like say more specific to ghostwriting, but it 100% applies to video too. And like I was talking about how like the a good ghostwriting client, at least in my opinion, usually they'll even be telling you things like I understand, yeah, this is a long-term thing like that we're building here. Like I want to build a brand, you know, for the long term. I'm not just in it for like the leads and stuff like this, right? Because the thing is, if a person just wants leads, there are better services like for that particular thing. Like they might, for example, want to go like the route of cold email or running paid ads, right? Where it's not really about it's not about building brand when you're sending cold emails. Like, I mean, it's about exposure. Like, and if you happen to have like a LinkedIn account and you are posting content and you do have a presence on there, then something like cold email actually works better because they'll go and they'll check out your LinkedIn, see you're active and this, and then they'll start reading your content. And if you're writing kind of like that authority style content, and like also the personality content in this too. Personality content shows them you're a real person. The authority content, shows them that you're an expert in your field in this. So cold email will probably work better. But yeah, if they just want like leads and stuff, cold email, paid ads, cold callers, like there's so many other services for that. But what we do, like all three of us, is more it's more like the medium to long term where when you've been doing that for a while, like, you might not be generating inbound leads in month one, two, three, but like at the year mark, you might have people like begging to work with you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 100%. I think that the performance marketing paid ads is great if like you just want direct attribution and like you can measure it and you have a product that's like I guess charged enough that actually could work with like a Google ad or something like that. But it's interesting because I know Ted Denning has like a massive presence. He's got like millions of followers, from my understanding. But like I I know Hod has been in some of his programs too. But I got an email from him the other day talking about like how like if like you're in your business, you're not running it properly or some shit like that. And I clicked on it and I went into his YouTube channel. And it looks like it's fairly new. He's only got maybe like 10 videos up on there, and he's got maybe 3,000 subscribers, which are probably all pushed from his newsletter. But what was interesting is I watched one of his 10-minute videos and he doesn't, it's pretty basic. He's got like one screen up and it looks like he's reading. It's not like he's like super like good presenter or anything like that. Obviously the content is really good, but he's not like a natural charismatic kind of guy. He's kind of reading and doing his thing or whatever. But because the content's really good and he's talking about money and like making like different offers and things like that, I watched like one video and then I watched like three other videos. So what I gathered from my own behavior is that as soon as you find someone that you like that has longer form content and it's good, you're more likely just to go watch like every single video on that person. And like I think that that's the difference that people don't realize. Our consumer habits, like we binge watch shit. So as soon
Mm-hmm.
as like you have that and it's like good, like you make a library of this shit, and that's how it's going to get deeper into people's heads, just like a newsletter. But like some people prefer to watch and listen than to like read. So I think that part of it, it was a good realization on my own self. And then someone, Shaw, I think his name's Shaw from Growth Ghost, mentioned he did the same thing for some other creator. It was this Asian guy named, not Dan Go, but another kind of well-known Asian marketer. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he said that he did the same exact thing and binge watched all this guy's videos. So I think that you tend to find the creator, and then you tend to binge watch.
Yeah, and I think that's another like value add and something that I've been communicating with the interview offer is like the client that we just closed this week, they've both been in business for a long time. They both like one of them just had like a seven-figure exit and now they've come together and they're building this new business where they basically help wellness like business owners in the wellness space get more leads and like build follow-up systems and stuff like that. So they've both been business owners before, but now they have this new offer, they have this new target audience, and they're like, yeah, we know that we want to be like getting on video. We want to have something out there specifically for like if there are people who like maybe are in limbo and they're like considering working with us. And like that's a really big value add because if there's somebody that's like for example, if I was like brand new to Dan Co, for example, and I'm considering like, do I want to join Dan Co's program or not? And then I see that, oh, there's a video where somebody interviewed him about like how he grew his business and his program. I'm probably going to watch that video because I'm considering working with him. And if that video is like, if it aligns with me and it's good, that video might be the reason that I buy because I'm like, yeah, I saw this video. I really resonated with a lot of the things you said. So that's a big piece that I've been leaning into as well is like, if we do this interview and I like research the hell out of your business, like who your avatar is, who, what kind of content competitors are making, and we craft an interview that tells your guys' story, explains the business, explains the mission, explains really clearly like who it's for and what the value is they get out of it, that in itself is a lead magnet that you guys can like pull pieces from or like throw the entire thing up on whatever the platform is that prospects come to. So I think that's a really important part. Like people who are interested in what you do are more likely to watch that long form content, and that long form content could very well be the thing that pushes them over the edge to buying.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a big YouTube guy, like as a consumer. So I totally understand I totally understand the value of being on that platform. Yeah, I think I've said to myself for a while that I should be on there. Because yeah, like I know that my habits, the way I consume content on YouTube is I'll put on a video and then I'll just be like walking around the apartment or whatever. Like, I might be cooking something. I might be like doing the dishes or whatever it might be. And I'll have that on in the background, right? And I'll just occasionally come and actually watch whoever's like speaking, right? And yeah, it's like you do find certain channels that you do tend to like binge watch and come back to, right? Every time the guy's got a new video or whatever, and it does a good job of like boosting the content that you do watch frequently, boosting that to the top of your feed. So, yeah.
One thing that
Mm-hmm.
was interesting about Tim is there wasn't much production at all on it. It was literally like just not any like graphics, not anything. So I think that something to be said there, like the depth of the content and like the authority of his, because how much he's built already is super helpful.
I'm commenting back to Ahad here. I love Lex Friedman's interviews. Yeah, I've been learning a lot about YouTube, like going through the YouTube coaching program that I'm going through. One of the things that I actually learned recently that kind of surprised me is that when you post a new video, you actually shouldn't link out to it right away, like in those first 48 hours specifically. And this is kind of an aside, but it related to Substack because what I was doing for a while is I would write a Substack newsletter about like somebody I interviewed, and then I would post the interview that week, and then I'd send out the newsletter that same week, pushing people to the interview because I was like, oh, it'll get more views. But what Daryl Eve says is that actually can like squash your videos on YouTube because the main way that you want people to find your videos is on the discovery tab and like browse. Like you want YouTube to be like suggesting your video. And if you, the YouTube algorithm sees that people are coming from direct links, they see that as like kind of spammy. They're like, oh, this person's just like sending out this link to people and getting them to come watch. And then on top of that, if those people who came from a link don't stay for the full video or like the retention's really low, then YouTube will just stop pushing it altogether.
Do you
So I learned
remove
that
the
what?
UTM link, like the UTM part that we always remove?
You can, but even still, like there's when you look at a video on YouTube, like if you post a video, YouTube will show you the breakdown of where the different viewers came from. So whether the UTM link is there or not, YouTube will still see that they came from a direct link as opposed to just discovering the video.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
So they
actually makes
said
sense.
like if you post a video, wait at least 48 hours before you send out links to it.
Yeah.
My understanding too is if you don't have any subscribers and you make long form content, it won't push it at all, but it will push shorts. So
Mm.
shorts is a discovery vehicle, but like long form isn't. But you can get subscribers from shorts because I don't know why it's like that, but um, yeah, long form just
Unless
doesn't get pushed.
unless the platform completely changed since the last time I had a YouTube channel, because I did have a YouTube channel once with this other guy where we were just it was to do with the whole food blogging thing. We were just going around to restaurants like reviewing food and stuff. And unless the platform has completely changed since back then in 2019, I can tell you that long form videos were also a discovery. And I think that they still do have discovery capacity, or and that just has a lot to do with the keywords, the hook, and the thumbnail that you use. You have to have those like very dialed in.
Mhm.
And like we had this random video just actually pop off and get like 40,000 impressions and
Yeah.
ended up getting us like I think when we kind of stopped the page, we were at about like six or 700 subscribers, and we hadn't really even been doing it for that long. But that one video was like the majority of our subscribers came from this one main video that popped off. Yeah.
Yeah, I did a video this month. I did a collaboration with this guy who runs a channel called Arcopia, and he basically has done like what my husband and I are planning to do. Like he built a passive solar greenhouse in the middle of Canada, so he's growing banana trees in like the middle of Canadian winter. And
Well,
I actually reached out to him for months because I was like, I really want to interview this guy, and my emails just kept getting buried. So then I reached out to him on Facebook, and he answered right away, and he's like, yeah, I'll do an interview with you. And so we did a collab. I think he's got like 95,000 subscribers, so like he's got a pretty big channel. And doing that collaboration with him, I think the video is at like 4K views right now, but in the 2 weeks since we posted it, my subscribers went from like 200 to now I think I'm at like 271. So it's like a pretty decent jump just from that one video, and it makes me want to like do more YouTube
collaborations.
collabs. Yeah, absolutely.
Sweet. I got to follow you on YouTube. Um, but yeah, that I was putting in the chat there. That's the thing that's so cool about YouTube. Like, search whatever you want. Like
Yeah.
recently, I followed some guys on YouTube that are like this one guy in particular who reviews like noir crime novels and stuff. And since I'm writing a book like in that vein, I'm like came across his channel and he like ranks them and stuff and talks about what he liked about each one. Yeah, you can find anything. I bet there might be like 100 or even 1,000 people on YouTube who do kind of like what you're talking about with the whole greenhouse and that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Your video with Finn did well too. I remember, right, Kelsey?
Yeah, that one, we didn't even collab on that one. I think the reason that that one did well is because he was at least very well known on YouTube, and he's also pretty controversial on YouTube. Um, that one still to this day will get like a few comments every week, every other day kind of thing, and it's usually people like hating on him. You could say whatever you want. I respect the hell out of him, and I really respected how like honest he was, and like he doesn't care about saying things that like offend people. He's just like, this is the truth, and not everybody likes that. But yeah, that video did pretty good, and I think was a little bit polarizing some of the things he said, and that's what like set people off. But yeah, we didn't even collab on that one. I think the thumbnail was a little bit polarizing. Like the thumbnail straight up said, "I did YouTube for the money," and then had his face on it. And I think anybody who like used to follow his content would see that and be like, "Oh fuck this guy," and then like go watch it. Um, but yeah, what you were saying, Mike, is absolutely true. Like what I've learned in that YouTube course is that the most important things for your video getting discovered are the thumbnail, the title, and the first 30 seconds of the video. And the way that Daryl Eves frames it is like your title and thumbnail are essentially like the promise of what the video is going to be about. And if people don't feel like in those first 30 seconds you fulfill that promise in some way, then your retention's just going to drop significantly. Um, and he's worked with Mr. Beast a lot, and so he refers to a lot of Mr. Beast content. He's like, you'll notice like if you start watching YouTube as like a student as opposed to like just a casual viewer, and you start looking at the people whose videos get like millions and millions of views, they're very often doing that, where like they set up expectations with the title and thumbnail of like this is what the video is about, and then they usually fulfill that in ideally like the first 10 seconds. So if Mr. Beast video is like, I spent 100 days on this desert island, then like in the first 20 seconds of the video, he's on the island and he's like, I'm going to spend 100 days on this island. So he's like immediately reaffirming in those first few seconds that like what you clicked on is what you're about to see. Let me give you a quick preview of it. And then they jump right into it.
Yeah. Or yeah, if he was to do that and it was like the first line was like, I'm going to spend 100 days on an island, right? Then probably like the next line would be like, but I'm not just going to do this. I'm actually going to like da 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 da. And I
Yeah.
only have like these supplies or something, right? There'd be some like plot twist. It's like, oh, okay, now I'm like double hooked on this thing.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. Yeah, I'm learning a lot. Ahad asked, what about captions? I might need you to elaborate on that, Ahad. I don't know if I'm fully understanding your question. But basically, there's different ways to get discovered on YouTube. So like I've had some people say like, oh, you should focus on like the SEO angle, and that's where you're like making sure that whatever keywords you use in the title and thumbnail, you're also adding those like a certain amount of time in the captions. You're adding them as the tags, but that strategy is very much leaning into like trying to get people to find you with like search terms, and that can work, but I'm just going based on what I'm learning in this program from Daryl Eves, because he's like probably the biggest YouTube coach in the world for the last however many years. And he said if that's one way to get discovered, but ideally you want people to find you in the browse feature on YouTube because YouTube's pushing your video. So if you're always focused on like, how can I make this really SEO focused, and how can I make this so that like this video comes up when people search certain terms, that is one strategy. But he said the best thing that you can do to get your videos out there is to make them so good that YouTube pushes them and people see them in suggested, in the browse, or after they watch another video, your video is like suggested on that right column of like, you should watch this next.
on YouTube, are the captions just automated by YouTube naturally based off the transcript? Because like, do you have to add your own captions for long form videos, or is that just something more that you would do for short form?
Oh, for like closed captions, like the subtitles, you mean?
Yeah, so like there are like subtitles that I think that people can put on, like it's a setting and stuff, right? Like you can put subtitles for whatever language, right? So do most creators still add their own captions
I
or
think it depends on the creator, but like I think some of those people, like maybe Diary of a CEO, he might have some captions in the beginning and some flashy stuff the first like minute, and then it probably just
Mm-hmm.
dies off a little bit. But I think
Yeah.
for the short form videos, usually captions are added, because a lot of people are watching those with the volume off.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
Yeah, I would guess the strategy probably changes depending on if you're doing long form or short form. But for the most part, yeah, if I upload a full interview and it's like a long form video and I like turn the captions on, it'll pull based on the transcript.
Mhm.
So, I mean, that's where like I edit all my videos in Riverside, and so I can see the whole transcript. So that's where I'll like fix typos and stuff like that. But I don't know how many people watch long form videos with the sound off. I think Jeremy's right. That's probably more of a prevalent thing in shorts.
Yeah, and I think that this is what dictates the way that people's strategy with short form versus long form. Because if it's like a sit down like interview type thing, like Diary of a CEO, putting captions on that almost is um, counterproductive. Like it's not going to serve the video more because yeah, when people are watching something like that, they're not watching it like at work when they're not supposed to be because you can't watch a 45-minute or hour long video at work like that, you know. And you like with the sound off, you're just not going to do that. You're going to watch it at home, right? So
Yeah. And another thing he said too is that, I mean, I could probably do a whole fucking series of videos of just like things I'm learning in this program. But he said if you look at the way YouTube has been trending over the last year specifically, most viewers now are actually watching YouTube on their television. So for a really long time, it was very focused on mobile and like optimizing for mobile. Said now people are actually moving away from things like cable TV and stuff, and they're starting to treat YouTube and platforms like YouTube as television. So the
yeah,
more you can optimize for people watching on television, so like a little bit more of longer form and like just trying to tweak your videos to be more like television friendly is the way that YouTube is leaning.
yeah, 100%. YouTube and Netflix are like the the only things I consume like that, you know. Um, mhm.
YouTube has some SEO built in too. It seems like if the video ranks and does well, it seems like the if it's like a long tail word, like yeah, that could be really good for your business too. I was also watching some video the other day, and they're talking about like how a lot of this SEO from like search engines, they call it GEO, is now coming from like Reddit and things like other like the algorithms are picking up like on like these Quora type sites and then bringing in information from there to serve to like I guess the chat GPTs and Claudes of the world when they're looking up like your name or my name or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I said, SEO is a whole other strategy on YouTube. So if you were like, if I was trying to lean into that more, we're like, okay, I want my video to come up when somebody searches this term, then there's certain things you can do. Like one of them is whatever the kind of keyword is. So like I just posted a video yesterday with a guy who has been organizing TED Talk events for like I think since 2012, and it was actually a really good interview. And he was sharing like behind the scenes of like how speakers get selected and like what are common mistakes people make that get them disqualified. And it was super interesting. But so what I could do in that sense, and I believe I did do it, was like you want to have like TED Talk in the title. You ideally want to have it in the thumbnail. You want to have it a certain amount of times in the description. So I think somebody said like at least 5 times in the description. You want to add it in the tags because all of that is feeding into the SEO side of things. So now if YouTube or if somebody went on YouTube and they're searching like, how to get on a TED Talk, I want to make sure that those words that I'm anticipating somebody would search are in the metadata of my video a certain amount of times.
Makes sense.
Are you in one coaching program or two? Because I
One.
think you're just in one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
I actually wondered if you were because I know that Nicholas Bueno has launched some sort of a coaching program. I wondered if you were in that, but no,
I
eh?
don't I don't know if he has a coaching program. I know that like I joined a workshop that he did a while ago or a couple weeks ago because I interviewed him again for Inspired Idiots, and he's made like a big shift in his business in the last couple of years. Like he was actually the first person who introduced me to like what ghostwriting is, and he was a student of Dakota's. I think he also did like Nicholas Cole and Dickie Bush's program, and now he's like completely moved away from the agency model and is kind of doing something a
Yeah.
little bit different. I don't think he has a program. I think he's just taking on one-to-one clients right now and kind of
Okay.
like building up what he wants. I guess maybe a program or something to be. But no, I'm the only program I'm in right now is Dare Leave's Channel Jumpstart program, which is like all about YouTube. I actually joined it like 2 years ago, and at the time I didn't know like what I wanted the YouTube channel to be about. I didn't really I knew like Inspired Idiots was the thing, but I didn't know what that looked like in terms of content. So I kind of just dropped off, honestly. And it feels very like serendipitous because then now I'm doing these interviews. I know what I want the channel to be about. And I was like, oh, I should go through Channel Jumpstart again because I've got like this new perspective. And then it just so happened there was a cohort coming up like 2 weeks later. And they're like, yeah, you should just like, you're an alumni. So I have access to all the training still. They're like, you should just join the new cohort. And then also coincidentally, in the first group call of that new cohort, Daryl says, yeah, and in section 7, we have an entirely new training on like podcast style content and like business style content. And I'm so excited about that because like most of what they teach really applies to people that are doing like Mr. Beast style content or like Ryan Trahan style content where it's like, I'm going to do this challenge or like, I'm going to, sit on every seat in every class of this airplane and stuff like that. So a lot of like the storytelling frameworks are more around that kind of content. And so sometimes it feels like, oh, this feels like it's hard to apply to like interview style
Yeah.
videos. So I'm really excited to see that and learn like how to apply some of these storytelling frameworks to the kind of content that we do.
Do they say
Do
to
you
focus?
follow?
Sorry,
Do you
go ahead,
follow
Mike.
Nicholas on Instagram? Nicholas Bueno.
Yeah.
I think it's a group coaching program. Honestly, I've seen some screenshots of like him on calls with like multiple people. But yeah, he seems to be very focused on mindset, which kind of interested me. Kind of got on my radar a little bit, just because I know how important it can be.
Yeah, he did a workshop a couple weeks ago that I joined, and then he put out an offer to people who wanted to work with him. Honestly, there could be a community aspect to it. He might do like live community calls, but it sounded one-on-one focused. And honestly, it's pretty reasonably priced. Like it's not thousands of dollars. So if you're into that idea, I can forward you the information he sent me. It definitely is more mindset focused. Like the workshop that he joined, and what I've seen him talking about in a lot of his content was just that like he basically grew his ghostwriting agency to like I think he did like 600,000 with it or something over 2 years, and he said his best month was over 50K, and then he was kind of in this place where he was like not really knowing if he like loved the work, like, and he said the thing that he felt like was really sabotaging him was just like not really feeling comfortable with the amount of success he was having. Like he'd have this 50K month and then like 2 months later he'd be like in debt because he's just like blowing all this money, and he's like I realize now that like I didn't feel like, I guess, safe with the amount of success my business was having. Like I didn't feel like I deserved it. I'd like get these clients who I thought seemed so successful and I would like always find a way to just blow it with them. And he said when he like shut down his agency, it was just like this massive sigh of relief because he's like, I felt like I was like building the successful business, not really knowing if it's like it didn't really feel aligned, I guess, for him. So that's what a lot of his content is about now. And that's what the workshop was about, was like kind of reconnecting with like the life he actually wants to build and like what he wants success to kind of mean for him. Yeah, Ahad, I can send you the information he sent me. I haven't joined it purely just because between prospecting and growing our business and the YouTube program, I was like, I want to be conscious of not being in too many places at once. But yeah, Nick's an awesome guy. I resonate with him a lot.
Yeah, send me the information as well.
Yep.
But yeah, no, like the whole thing with alignment, like yeah, if you try and it comes back to something that we were talking about in kind of almost the beginning of the call too, where you were saying that like lately, you just feel like there's so many opportunities, plus you're putting yourself out there in all these places, and if like it just feels like it's kind of coming to you easier. And I said like when it's going well, it's easy. Well, that it comes full circle because like what Bueno's kind of talking about with alignment and stuff, when you try and force it, when like every part of your being, like even in your body, you don't actually want to do this, Like it's almost like unhealthy to like
Mm-hmm.
be forcing it when you really don't want to.
Mm-hmm.
I actually did something different this week. There was this guy, really top ghostwriter, definitely runs, I think, if I had to estimate, probably like a 1 to 2 million revenue ghostwriting agency. And he put out a post saying that he's looking for like, an A-player ghostwriter. And I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to apply for this. And because I'm like, if I'm really honest with myself, I want to focus on the fiction novels, right? And running a ghostwriting business, running a ghostwriting agency, there's a lot that goes into it. Like there's the lead generation, sales, operations, like all of that. And I even actually, well, so anyway, I applied and you received the first email and it's like, we've received your application in this. Then the next one was like, hey, Mike, good news. Like you've been selected for like a group interview call. And this was like going to be the first group interview I've ever done. So on the day of the group interview, which was actually just yesterday, I saw that he posted and he said that I posted across LinkedIn, Twitter, Substack, my email newsletter, and I got 200 applications, right? So I'm like, okay, great. Yeah. So I'm competing against 200 other people. And he had a few slots for the group interviews. Like I think he maybe had a total of like 3 or 4 of these group interview slots you could pick. So I picked like the first one. I think there was like one more spot left. Pick the first one. Show up to the call. And on the call, he said that 174 people like applied. So from that 200, probably what it looked like, and he didn't explain this, but it's like probably that first like 25 or 26 were just kind of like, these people aren't even like legitimate. Like they didn't even provide their LinkedIn account or whatever. So it's just like scrap those. So like 174 like real legitimate applicants. And then he's like, the good news is, guys, you're actually part of a group of 20. So like he had narrowed it down to like 20 people. And we were a group of 6 people on that call. So do the interview and it went really well. The last question, the first question was kind of like, tell me what you've been doing for like the last 2 years. So I gave a bit of my backstory, talked about being coached by Dakota, started out on Twitter, landed clients from there, switched over to like LinkedIn in 2024, all that. And then I ended off by saying that now I'm also like writing a fiction novel, right? And then for me specifically, he didn't ask anybody else this question, which is a really good sign if you read between the lines. He asked me, I was actually wondering like why you're interested in this role. And I know why he's asking me that because he knows who I am. He's been seeing me on the timeline stuff. He's thinking like, why is this guy who's like actually run a ghostwriting business, not to his level of like 1 million, 2 million revenue a year, but like, hitting like a 22K month, that kind of thing. Why would this guy who seems to actually have like a real ghostwriting business, why does this guy, want to now work for an agency? And I'd already thought about this. I'm like, he's going to ask me this question. How am I going to answer it? So when he asked me that, I'm like, yeah, no, I've done the thing, had my own clients, built it up in this. But now, since I'm writing this fiction novel, I kind of actually want to take a step back because I'm like, like that there's the whole operations side, the lead gen, the sales, and like it's a lot, right? And if I really want to focus on writing the fiction novel, I actually want to take a step back from that, but still be a writer. So that was my explanation for him.
Nice.
But yeah, we'll see. I'm actually thinking it could be perfect for what I'm doing right now. So
that's interesting. I've never heard of somebody doing a group interview call. So did he just go around asking individual questions to people and then people would just like give their answers one at a time?
Yeah. So I wondered how he was going to do it. And I wondered if he was going to do it where like he would, ask a question and then have like every single person answer it, or do it where he comes up with a question and then like just like throws it on one specific person and then moves on to a different question. But the way he did it was everybody got asked the same question, but he would change up the order, right? So it's like, but he would always like pick the next person, and sometimes he would switch it up. Like it's like it would go like Mike, Luke, Tim, Letitia, something, and then it would be like Letitia, like reverse it and kind of like, you know, to kind of like keep you on your toes a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. That's
The
cool.
last question was interesting because he said, okay, so hypothetically speaking, let's say that you got through and you're going to be a part of the team. So based on that, based on like what you've seen from the other candidates, if you had to select one person to join the team with you, who would you select? Right?
Oh shit.
When he asked that question, I'm like, no one's gonna pick me. No one's gonna pick me. Because why would they? Because like what, you know, like I feel like I've done really well in this interview and I feel like I've got a pretty good chance here. Why would anyone select me? Right. But then like about almost 3 people said I'd select Mike as well, which surprised me, right? Yeah.
Oh man, I think you got it. That's
Yeah,
I mean
we'll see. We'll see, you know?
that feels like I believe in you. I believe that you got it just based on those two things you told us. Like if he asked you a very specific question and then also you got the votes of confidence from other people, that feels like such a diabolical question because like I'm sure there was probably somebody on that call that maybe nobody voted for. So that would feel kind of crushing to
Yeah.
that person. But that's a really, really smart strategic question for him to ask because number one, my first thought was it shows that you've been really paying attention to the call and you're like not only preparing for your own answers, but he's making sure that you were actually listening to other people's answers as well, which is kind of
Mhm.
interesting. But then also he's like getting different people's reads on different people. Interesting. I don't even know what to think of that, but I think that's really smart and strategic.
The one mistake I may have made, I don't know if it's fully a mistake, but so when he asked that question, the first guy to answer was this guy, I think his name was Luke. And he said, I'd pick Mike, right? Because I've seen him on LinkedIn. I like his takes on AI and stuff and this and that. It resonates with me. And I kind of believe the same thing. So I pick Mike. And then someone else went and answered. And then it was me, or it might have been me right immediately after. I actually said, I'm actually gonna throw it back to Luke there because I also see his content, which is true, right? I also see his content on LinkedIn, and he posts about AI. So and it resonates with me as well. So I'm gonna go with Luke. So I don't know if I should have been like, like switched it up and gone with somebody else, but I think that's honestly fine for me to do that. I just didn't want it to seem as if, oh yeah, I'm just like tossing it back to him just because he voted for me. But yeah.
Do you think that his
What?
biggest concern, the owner, that you would just bounce because you kind of already done your own business? Do you think that's his biggest concern in the back of his head, out of curiosity?
This is not my first time applying to an agency, and I have noticed a pattern. Something that like I think agency owners do try and avoid is if you seem like you're too much of like you're too in the game currently, like you've already got like a ton of clients and you seem maybe a little bit too I don't think it's a bad thing to be entrepreneurial minded, but like if you're still in the game and you've got like this like large roster of clients and you kind of seem like you're maybe like you could actually just be like looking to get the gig just to see what's going on, under the trunk to see how the other person's running their agency, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you don't want to give off those types of vibes, which is also why I was sure to say, or why I figured mentioning that I'm writing a fiction novel could actually be an asset in this scenario, because well, actually, it's a plus in a lot of ways, because it's like, oh wow, this guy's like pretty like serious about writing. That he's actually even writing his own book, and he's writing fiction, which is like that's like storytelling on a whole other level, right? So, and then also then using that as the reason why I'm interested in working for his ghostwriting agency. I want to take a step back from the whole agency space, and I just want to focus on my novel, but I still want to, develop my craft as a writer, and that's why I'm interested in this role. I think is pretty much the perfect answer for a person like me, because
Yeah.
otherwise why the fuck are you applying for this gig, man? I know you
Yeah.
want the inner workings of my 2 million revenue ghostwriting business.
Yeah. I mean, thinking about it, like putting myself in that position, if I did that and somebody came onto the call and they very much seemed like, oh, you seem like you have a thriving ghostwriting agency. You seem like you're pretty content doing your own thing. Why do you want this role? I would ask that question to suss out, like, are you trying to get a role like this because you have like the ulterior motive of like poaching clients for your own agency? Are you just trying to see like how I run mine so you can better run yours? So I think what you said was probably the best thing you could have said to kind of put him at ease, that you're like, I have all these skills. I kind of want to take a step back from like doing all the things and just focus on doing the writing. That's why I would ask that question. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
Vincenzo said system hacking. Vincenzo said exactly, exactly. That would be my concern. Is like, okay, am I going to
Operation.
hire you and you're going to come in for like 3 months and build relationships with my clients and learn the strategies and then bounce, but then say to the clients like, hey, you can work with me over here if you want, because I've seen people do that and it sucks.
That's the that's the scummiest move that also could completely ruin your reputation on the back end. Like, maybe not publicly. This person might not go on LinkedIn and write up the post about this ghostwriter who came in and did that. But like behind closed doors, when your name comes up, oh no, that guy's a total asshole. That guy's a scumbag. Do
Yeah.
not work with this guy. Here's what he did, right?
Yep.
So no, I completely like no. I wouldn't play that game, honestly. That's not something I would even like consider. You can pick up and
Yeah.
watch how people are running their agencies and stuff. Like even the way he talked about running his agency and stuff. He said that we're a little bit different with some ghostwriting agencies. We actually don't have you do the interview call with the client. We just want you to focus 100% on the writing, right? Which when I had writers for my agency and stuff, it's like that's the way I did it too. I didn't have like the writer take the interview calls because and he acknowledged that too. It's like there's kind of already enough like pressure as a writer to write something good in this. If you're too close to the client handling in this, it might be a bit too much pressure. It's like better if there's a separation and kind of a
Yeah.
middleman in between that handles the communications, because then if you do get that like critical feedback that's like maybe not that great on a certain post, it's kind of good that there's a bit of separation, because it's like then the agency founder or somebody in between can be like, hey, yeah, the client didn't like this post, right? But with a couple tweaks here, we can make this work. Sometimes it's better to have that middleman deliver the bad news.
Yeah, that actually made me think of something that you actually planted in my head, Mike, because there was that one client that I'd referred to you, and I was like, if this works
Mm,
out, and I think you and I had figured out the deal, like I would interview that client, and then the writing would get handed off to somebody, and that like lit off a
yeah,
light bulb in my mind that it's not something that I've like actively pursued, but it's something that I would do if like a ghostwriting agency was like, hey, we want somebody to just handle the interviews. I would actually love to do that, to just do the interviews and then let somebody else on the team handle the writing. Because I've realized that like I do love writing and I love writing about what I learned for people, but when it comes to the ghostwriting stuff, I feel like I thrive in the interview portion of
I
it.
feel like there could be a certain, like, this has crossed my mind. Um, I think that there could be a service where it's just the interview fulfillment side of like the ghostwriting, and it's not even just ghostwriting because it's actually then it's video and potentially ghostwriting. So it's like an interview fulfillment service
Mm-hmm.
could actually be a pretty sweet agency. And then you're not even dealing directly with like the end client of the personal brand. You're actually dealing more B2B with other agency owners. You could work
Yeah.
with like the founders and stuff like this, right? Because they might need interview services too. But I could see a big market for approaching ghostwriting agencies and video agencies and being like, do you need someone to handle your interviews? Because it's a timely process, but it's also it's a skill that you need. Like it's not just
Yeah.
something you can hand off to like a VA. Oh yeah, handle my interview calls. Like that's going to
Yeah.
be probably brutal. Like you have to be. I don't
Yeah.
know.
There's so much more thought and preparation that goes into it than like I even initially thought, because I realized that like if you're trying to interview somebody for content and you're trying to like, let's say, like get short form posts out of that, there's a real art to it. And I know that I've talked to you guys about this before. Like in the past, my partner and I have tried to hire people to like help cut clips, and we realized like, man, this is such a it's more of a skill than we even gave credit for, because like people, unless somebody has that like writing storytelling perspective and they're going into the interview with that of like, okay, every question I ask is going to ideally become a clip. Well, that clip needs to be able to stand alone as its own post. It needs to open a loop and then close it, or it needs to tell a story, or it needs to have a point. And the kind of stuff that we would get back from people is like, yeah, they would cut the clip, but I'd be like, there's no point to this clip though. They didn't make a point, they didn't say anything polarizing, they didn't close the loop, they didn't tell a story. So it's not just a matter of like, okay, cut the clip. Like I ask a question, they give the answer, that's the clip. No. There's a lot more that goes into it, and it makes it way way easier when the person who's doing the interviewing actually knows that. So it's not just a matter of like getting a list of questions and sitting down and asking that person the questions. Like the parts that I love the most are like researching that person and looking at all of their stuff through the eyes of like, if I was considering working with this person, like what questions are coming up, what's unclear to me, what makes this person different. Like if I'm like that person who's like in limbo and I'm deciding whether or not I want to work with this person, like what questions are coming up, and then taking all that research, making questions that I think like every single one of these questions is going to elicit some kind of good response from this person, because if I've watched enough of their content, I've probably already heard some of their like polarizing takes. I've heard things that they're like really passionate about. So I know the way that I frame that question is going to dictate the way that they answer the question. There's so much more that goes into like a really good interview than I thought even like a year ago. So yeah, you've got my wheels turning now, Mike. I'm wondering if I should be like marketing this more. Like
I,
I'll handle the
Yeah,
interviews for
I'm
ghostwriting agencies.
I almost feel like there's a DIY thing in there too. Like Mike mentioned before in a previous post that not everyone wants to go, or like not some people want to ghostwrite themselves or whatever, write their own content, I suppose. So if you
Mm-hmm.
give them the interview and then you set them up in a Claude system where you're like, all right, this is your brief for like the thing. Here, I'm gonna take 5 of your old posts. This is your writing style, and like load it into Claude and be like, here's your thing, go write. And that could be something too, where it's like I don't know, like $500 to a grand, and you set up this project for them or whatever.
Yeah,
plus here's
that's
here's your video too, and if it's done
Yeah.
on Riverside, it's like,
yeah.
and then it's like the perfect like upsell to, do you want us to also clip this up for you? So
That's exactly how we're framing it. Is there's like the foundational offer of like, okay, we're going to interview you, we're going to give you the full video, you can cut your own clips from it, but we also do like a deep dive kind of social strategy document. And I have like a whole process that I've learned actually from somebody on Substack, and it's so efficient. But you basically do this whole big customer avatar research, you put it into 4 different AIs, and then you take what those 4 different AIs give you and you put all of those back into Claude and say like, basically like find the similarities between what these 4 different reports showed. So the one you give back to them isn't biased based off of any specific AI. It's got unbiased information based on what the 4 different AIs pulled. So we basically give them that interview, and then we also give them a social strategy document. So now they basically have like the foundation for their content machine, because we gave you the angles, we gave you a whole bunch of ideas for like repurposable content, and we also gave you this interview that you can now cut into clips that you can use like over and over again in different types of content. So that's like the kind of intro offer, and then the next step is like the full done for you. We're like, okay, we take what we just gave you and our team runs with it, and we cut the clips and we post them and do the whole shebang.
Yeah, there's kind of this thing with like I'm sure it's pretty similar with the video side of things. There are some differences, but with ghostwriting, right? You might start with like a broad question, like what are some of like the milestones in your business or something like that, right? And you know that's just kind of a pretty broad, like open-ended question. But then they'll say something like, "Oh yeah, I remember." Well, actually, something crazy about like our business is our first client was actually Kmart or something back in the day, and it's like Kmart. Now, if you aren't like a person who has this natural curiosity, where like when this person says like Kmart, you actually like you kind of like light up a little bit, like how did you get Kmart as your first client, right? If you don't have like that natural curiosity and stuff to follow your own curiosity, like it's not going to be as good of an interview. And that is why this isn't just something that you can hand off to anybody. They have to have that natural curiosity. They have to follow their own curiosity. How did you land Kmart as your first client? Oh, it's actually because my partner had this connection through his father, this and that, da 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 da, and we had to like manage like 1 million different like codes for all their different product line in this. And then that's when you get into like the really interesting content, not by asking that first generic question that like Claude or ChatGPT, if you said to it, you take all the information of the client, like the about section, bio, all this, and you load it into like Claude or ChatGPT. Give me 25 open-ended questions, right? It can give you the generic ones, but it can't give you the ones that like when the client says that specific gold nugget, that you're like, oh, wait, hang on. That's a LinkedIn post right there. Your first client was Kmart, right? And then you lean into that. It can't help you with that part.
Yeah, for sure. Interesting. This is getting my wheels turning. Cool.
Interview fulfillment.
Yeah. Rick Rubin is a great example of this and an elite podcast interviewer. Cool. I'll check him out. I've actually not heard of Rick Rubin.
He's the guy that produces the Chili Peppers.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh.
Jay-Z producer as well. Red Hot Chili Peppers, Jay-Z.
Great beard too.
But what's weird about it, he doesn't play music. He somehow produces people without playing music, which is interesting.
Interesting. I'm going to check that out. Cool. Well, that seems like a good note to end it on. I don't want to take up too much of your guys' time, but yeah, this was a great conversation.
Likewise, we'll see you guys on next Friday. Have a good weekend. Peace.
Yeah, see you guys. Take care.
Bye.